You are now tuning in to the Going North podcast with your host, best-selling author and professional speaker and member of the John Maxwell team, Dominic Dom Brightman. And every Monday and Thursday we're going to hear the voice of a different author sharing their gifts, stories, and expertise to help you charge forward in life. Now let's get on with the show. And today on the Going North podcast, where we bring you ordinary humans doing extraordinary things, today's no different because we have another author in his house, but not just any author, an award-winning author. And you're probably familiar with this wonderful author right here. He's been here twice before, and he's back at it again because he can't get enough of the podcast goodness. And he's got more in the weights, as well as a second book that is in the works indeed. And you're probably wondering who I'm talking about right here. It's the one, the only NB himself, the one and only Nelson Brown. How you feeling, man?
I'm good. I'm definitely glad to be back for the third time. I just love being a part of your show, and I just love sitting down in interviews with people and discussing my work and in my ministry and what I do, and I just love sharing my talents with others. I've gotten more comfortable with that with each interview and, with my writing and with all of my engagements. So it's definitely been an awesome opportunity.
Oh, yeah, awesome indeed, awesome indeed. And the beautiful thing about it is you're still on the move and you get to add award-winning author to your moniker now. Author of the Year from the Fred Newsom Awards. That's what I'm talking about. So how you think that all came about, man? Any advice for any authors out there who may be looking to add some awards to their resume in a way to get their names out there and all that good stuff? Because it's not every day you see someone who writes a book, but it's also not every day where everybody who writes a book actually gets an award for it. So how's it feel, man? And any advice for those who may be looking to get awarded for their work as well?
Well, some of the advice I would like to give to people who are interested in writing a book, and they don't have to necessarily be authors, people who are any type of artists, whether you're into visual art, whether you're into painting, sculpting, whether you're into music, I definitely think that is selling yourself and networking with as many people as you can network with at many different engagements is definitely a big opportunity for you to sell yourself. And I definitely feel as though, like I said before, it's very overwhelming to think that, I'm the author of the year by the Newsom Awards this year, and I just turned 20 years old, and it's been a year, pretty much exactly a year since I released my first book. And I'm already in the process of writing books 2 and 3, and it's definitely, like I said, it's overwhelming, and I'm still very excited. But I definitely would tell the listeners if they're interested in writing a book or if they want to dive into any field of art, whether it's in music, whether it's in painting, whether it's in sculpting, I definitely feel as though they need to take some time out to appreciate the small accomplishments. I'm learning about that as I go along my journey, because a lot of times when you're in the process of trying to establish yourself in an industry or in a specific field, you don't give yourself your seasons of rest, in a sense. In other words, you become a workaholic and you think that, okay, the harder I work, the faster I'll get to where I want to go. But you just have to pray, and this is what I do. I keep a journal of my prayers, and I just keep my conversations with God intimate on a daily basis, and just trusting the process, because especially for our generation, the millennials, a lot of them want to, get to the top so fast, and a lot of them want to speed through everything. They want to speed through the process of, gaining employment, getting promotions, making money. But a lot of us just need to learn how to appreciate the small accomplishments and just be thankful for the small accomplishments, which will, make waves and for larger blessings and more accomplishments down the line. So I definitely think selling yourself and networking and being your best on every occasion, especially when you're in the field of entertainment or in the arts.
Solid advice right there. That's what I'm talking about indeed. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, definitely right about that too, about the taking time to actually appreciate your victories, especially the small wins, because it's like, especially if you're so mission focused of trying to get through things as fast as possible and you don't actually take a moment to breathe and appreciate it. Next thing you know, 5 years will be passed by like, oh shoot, what the heck just happened? Like, oh, I actually did all this, and then out of nowhere you just realize, oh, you just missed so many other moments to actually just take it all in and drink it all in per se.
Exactly.
Yes, sir, indeed. Yes, sir, indeed. Congrats again on the award, and then you got more stuff in the waiting, in the wings. So I believe book number 2 is going to be poetry, and you said there's a third book in the works again after that one as well. So are those going to be releasing anytime soon this year?
I'm still going to be, networking with people in various fields of business throughout the remainder of the year. In addition to working at the Maryland Department of the Environment and, facilitating small groups at the Messiah Community Church, I'm going to be networking with people in various fields of business through the end of this year, but I will be releasing the second book sometime in February before Valentine's Day, and it's going to be a book of poetry. And then in May of 2021, before Mother's Day, I plan on releasing book number 3. They're both going to be books of poetry, and the second book is going to be entitled The Beauty in Us, Vulnerable Masculinity, and it basically discusses the struggles, and it also celebrates manhood. It talks about the beauty and the struggles of manhood. And I decided to write poetry, dive into poetry, because the reason why I decided to do that is because I feel like, okay, since I'm a new author, it's time for me to explore different genres. And I will be 21 next year, and I think that's definitely a milestone age, especially for young adults. I've grown and I've learned a lot since my graduation from high school, and ever since the first book was released, a lot has transpired, and I just really feel as though I just really need to just exercise that creative muscle and to just use it to my advantage. And in the second book, it's going to be a book of poetry about the struggles of manhood, and it celebrates manhood. And I just find that a lot of people, especially people in their early 20s and their late teens, a lot of them are still trying to find themselves. Like a lot of us, we're still searching, especially when we're in our early 20s. We're searching for who we are, and we're trying to figure out what we want. And you know what you want, but it's very difficult to navigate through obstacles in order to get to where you want to be at a certain point in your life. And a lot of the childhood scars begin to surface in your late teens and in your early 20s if they're not really addressed during your childhood. And a lot of men suffer from that. The themes that are going to be in the second book are mental health, Christian values, independence, forgiveness, and unity, which is something that every young man needs in order to grow into a mature adult. And the third book is going to be a book of poetry as well, but this is going to be centered around women and children. It's going to celebrate women and children. It's still going to talk about beauty from a male's perspective, but it's going to celebrate, like moms, aunts, godmothers, grandmothers, and just a lot of female figures that, sacrifice a lot in today's world. And in addition to women and children, it's going to discuss consumerism and how that, the negative aspects of that and how it affects the world. So those are the next two books that are in the works.
Sounds great indeed, and seems like it's a huge topic that's really getting some traction of when it comes to vulnerability, especially with men being vulnerable. I think Lewis Howes even had a book called The Mask of Male Masculinity. However, from some perspectives, like, all right, he's writing from a certain perspective, but coming from a millennial, like, male perspective is probably a different side of the coin, per se. It's kind of like a whole different side of the coin, like the heads or tails sort of thing. So what really led you to that track in a way, just to take the poetry route since you're exploring different genres? I mean, like there's poetry, that's great, and poetry's always great. Why not something like maybe, I guess, a fiction story or maybe something else?
Well, with my first book, I decided to make that into a memoir because I wanted to set the stage and I wanted to set that foundation for my readers. I'm just branching out as an author, with my first book, and it just gave me an opportunity to introduce myself to my readers, just give them an idea of who I was. But with the second book and with the third book, it gives my readers an opportunity to insert themselves into the book in some way or shape or form. And I think that poetry, a lot of it sends messages and it speaks volumes to a lot of it can attract many different audiences regardless of your race, your faith, your nationality, your culture. It's very captivating. I find poetry to be very captivating because it can take you into another universe, and you can just picture yourself in a different place. And like I said, with poetry, I just think that it sends messages and it tells stories, and a lot of people can relate to messages, and a lot of people can relate to specific stories. And like I said, it can capture a large audience instead of a box, in a sense.
Woohoo! Sounds cool indeed. Definitely don't want to stay in a metaphorical box. And the beautiful thing is, my man is 20 years old, and you have a certain level of focus that some folks may not even have it your age, and heck, even some may not even have it twice your age, funny enough. So, in addition to faith and family, what would be your why that really keeps you going the way that you do?
Well, I definitely feel as though, like I said, I'm a very motivated person. I'm very focused and I'm very organized. I honestly think that just making an impact is something that making a positive impact on this community and to this world is something that has been very important to me. It's been imperative to me, for a very long time. And, just thinking about like many of the people I can inspire, and just thinking of how many, and I have already, many of my readers have enjoyed the first book. It warms my heart inside, and it makes me feel, it satisfies my soul to know that, I'm saving another soul in a sense. And like I said, nothing in this life comes easy, especially in the world of entrepreneurship, or if you're trying to make a difference, if you're trying to change the way that people think about various subjects. It's not going to happen overnight. And a lot of people, especially with the microwavable world that we live in, a lot of people think that, change is going to just come with a snap of the finger, and that's not the case. And like I said, you just really have to stay focused, and you really have to have the best peer group, have the best group of people who are going to pour into you in a sense, and pour into you wisdom and guidance and the knowledge that you need so that you can be successful, and so that they can continue to celebrate your successes with you. And ever since, I started college, and ever since I've been working and everything, I just had to get rid of a lot of people. A lot of people in college begin to show their true colors. A lot of people in your peer group begin to show their true colors. And you start to outgrow friendships. And when the cost of ambition and the cost of being a boss, in a sense, you have to let people go along your journey. And I've learned that. And you have to be okay with it if you want to get to where you want to be. And if you are used to people handing you things, you're not going to appreciate it. But when you work for everything that you want, you feel a sense of accomplishment, and you appreciate it in the long run. And all of your hard work is going to pay off in the end.
Sounds great right there indeed. Sounds great. So any advice for those who may be just starting out and they just need to get that boost of confidence to keep pushing out their work, or in a way push out their art?
Yes, I would definitely say that just be open to the fact that everybody's not going to understand or embrace your visions or your dreams for what you want or for how you want to make an impact on this world. Don't share everything with everybody. And the thing about it is that, when you work your passions, when you cultivate your passions, you can use your passions to bless someone else, and you can also use your passions to create income opportunities, extra income opportunities for yourself. Just loving what you do and being paid for it makes it all worthwhile. And like I said before, you just have to have a small peer group, people who have your best interests at heart, people who are willing to pour in wisdom, knowledge, and guidance to you, and people who are willing to give you constructive criticism and not just condescending criticism in a sense. But you just have to have the right people in your peer group, and you have to continue to network with the right people in order to get to where you want to go. And you have to be able to sell yourself in the best possible way, being professional, having manners, being courteous, and just being prompt and just having proper etiquette when you're in the public eye and when you are doing business really speaks a lot. And it shows your character and in your integrity as well.
I like what you said there about constructive criticism and not condescending criticism. And that should probably be in everybody's lexicon from now on, condescending criticism right there, because that's really what it is in terms of when people think about constructive criticism. It's like, oh, constructive criticism, like, oh, they just come off as condescending or trying to, instead of build up the person, they're really trying to tear down the person or come off as snobbish or something like that. So that's really something I think we should probably add in the lexicon of something of what not to do when it comes to offering feedback to someone else, just offering feedback that would be of value to them to help them continue to actually show their value to the rest of the world, because it's very true. You can't tell everybody everything that you're doing, because it's like some people, either one, they don't want to hear it, two, they may want to hear just to find a way to try to stop you, or heck, even three, they're like, you know what, I just don't care either way. So it is really great that you said that, and that, heck, maybe even put that on a t-shirt. It's like, yeah, I'm about constructive criticism, not condescending criticism.
Yes, and the thing about it is that, and I tell people all the time, if something great happens in your life, don't tell everybody all of your business. Now, I know a lot of people have a problem with that because a lot of people, for some reason, feel the need to share all of their accomplishments, all of their successes with everyone. And as nice as that sounds, they have to be open to the fact that everybody's not going to celebrate them. And they have to be open to the fact that, sometimes people don't understand. They don't embrace your dreams or your visions because they don't understand how it's going to make an impact on others. And usually when people are satisfied with where they are in their relationships and in their careers and in different aspects of their life, they don't really have time to belittle a person or patronize a person because of what they're trying to do. The people who are not doing anything have more time to focus on the people who are actually doing something. And that's what I've learned as well. And I know people who are like 20 to 30 and even 40 years my senior who are still like very bitter and very spiteful of what they haven't done instead of saying focus on the vision and the dream. And I definitely learned that, as a young man or as a man in general, you have to have a vision and you have to be resilient and you have to be willing to you have to know how to handle adversity in a healthy way, because a man who does not know how to handle adversity in a healthy way is going to crumble in the world. And, if he has a family, they're just going to follow behind, and they're just going to – it's not going to be a great representation of what, in a spiritual sense, what a kingdom man is supposed to be. So that's what I've learned, and as a small group facilitator, as a student, as an author, and as just a working young man, an educated young man as I am, that's what I've learned. And I've developed those qualities already, but they're just getting stronger and stronger. And just giving, and there's nothing wrong with, crying. There's nothing wrong with feeling frustrated or, feeling, sad. You can have your sad moments, your moments of frustration, but you don't have time to stay there. You get to have your moment, and then you get to move on, but just don't wallow in your mess. A lot of people do that, and it's not healthy.
Amen to that, indeed. Amen to that too. And people leaving here fast, man, and not always by their own choice either. Well, actually, when you think about it, so, no, not everybody, anyways. But anyways, yeah, it's definitely not healthy indeed. Nick, you're definitely right yourself. Like folks maybe 20, 30, 40 years your senior, and they're bitter about something because it's like, oh, okay, this young guy's doing all this stuff, getting all his accolades, and I've been on the planet longer than him. What the heck is going on? Where's my darn plaque and certificate? When they haven't even done nothing to actually earn something. So you really can't complain about the person out there putting themselves out there and working when you yourself haven't done the work. So it's really true right there indeed. So you mentioned group facilitators. So how's that been coming along, and what are your plans for the group facilitation that you're doing? Are you thinking of maybe doing workshops in the near future based off of the skills you're gaining at the moment?
Well, yes. I became a small groups facilitator at the Messiah Community Church this past spring. I completed the training this past spring, and we did our spring session. My co-facilitator and I, we facilitated groups filled with individuals and married couples, and we were able to create our lessons and conduct our groups and our sessions based off of biblical lessons that we learned from past sermons from our pastor. And it's definitely been a great opportunity. I learned a lot. At first I was very reluctant and I was very apprehensive about facilitating small groups with married couples because, I'm not married, of course, and I don't have children yet. But I definitely learn a lot from people who are married, especially because I do want to get married and have children, by the time I'm 30. And I look at, the married couples from the baby boomers generation, and I just ask them, and from different generations, but definitely the baby boomer generation, how they managed to stay married, because I know people who have been married for 50 and 60 years, and people have been married since they were in their early 20s, mid-20s, and they're still holding on strong, and they still have a very strong faith together and through all of the adversity. And I just love learning, and I just love talking to them. And with individuals who are trying to find that significant other and who are trying to find that spouse and who are still trying to get to know who they are before they, let someone else in, is definitely it definitely feeds, my spirit and feeds my soul. And I definitely want to start a coaching business before I'm 30, that is similar to a counseling business where, I can where married couples, teens, families can come and just feel that safe haven, because we live in such a digital world where everything is impersonal. And I feel like, that one-on-one, that direct communication and that safe haven would open up more doors and opportunities for people to do some great healing work and some great spiritual work on a personal level, on a, one-to-one level, in a sense, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, it makes perfect sense indeed. Heck, life coaching or just coaching in general, that's a multi-billion-dollar industry, because it's, especially nowadays where folks are so darn plugged into technology and social media and whatnot, they may lack the whole one-on-one conversation, or heck, not only that, they may also just need that positive reinforcement. And some folks, they may stay indoors and they may have negative views because they watch the news that's full of the blues, and they don't really have someone who actually has that positive voice for them to actually encourage them to go out there and actually get what they want out of life, even if the person may not be fully experienced in whatever field that they may be looking to be coached in. They can still have that positive reinforcement, have someone help them to get where they want to go. So I don't blame you, man, and kudos to that indeed, my friend, because everybody's going to need a coach. Heck, even the coaches themselves. That's right, the coach's coach. Well, as with all things that are sunny, there may be some days where you may feel a little downtrodden. So any advice for those who may have gotten a few victories under their belt, and they may need to get revved up once again because they kind of had a couple of slumps in like a few days, or they may have like little mild bouts of depression, and they just may be having a couple of down days, and they may need to focus on what got them to that place in the first place. Am I sharing any words of wisdom you may have learned with your journey thus far as an author?
Yes, I do have some insight about that. I would definitely tell, especially for gentlemen, just talk, communicate, just talk to somebody that you trust. And if you've been diagnosed with depression, or if you suffer from like depression or just suicidal thoughts, I would say just get therapy immediately. There's nothing wrong with seeking help. There's nothing wrong with going to therapy to talk about your issues. I went to therapy back in high school to discuss all of my issues, and all of my suicidal thoughts at the time with everything that I was going through, and it made me feel a lot better. And now, 5, 6 years later, here I am. And when you don't accept professional help, you're doing a disservice to yourself and to the people around you. And I can speak for gentlemen because I do know that men don't like to ask for help. Men just don't. And whenever a problem arises, just men don't like to speak. Men don't like to talk. Ladies like to vent, but men don't like to vent. Men don't like to speak at all. When a problem arises, guys will usually say, "Okay, I'll deal with it later. I'll deal with it tomorrow." Ladies don't do that. Ladies will vent, they'll ask questions, and they want you to listen. And being a good listener does not involve talking all the time. It involves just sitting there and just, like I said, being a listening ear to somebody. And that's all that, men need to do is just to speak, vent about whatever you need to vent about. It's just important to get it off your chest, because if you don't, it just begins to fester, and then you're just walking around with that weight on your heart and that weight on your spirit, and you don't want to hold grudges, and you don't want to be spiteful and mean and just negative all the time. So I definitely encourage all men to, ask for help, get therapy if they suffer from depression or suicidal thoughts, because many men do, especially in the black community. The taboo topic is mental health. And even people who are the most successful people in this world, people think that, they don't have problems and that everything is just, rainbows and sunshine. And that's not the case. Some people are intimidated by all of their own success. And like I said, just you get therapy, because if you don't, it just like I said, you're doing a disservice to yourself, and it's not healthy for the people around you either. That's what I would say to gentlemen, since my ministry is about uplifting men.
Awesome right there. Awesome right there. Yes, indeed. Yeah, because men, we all need encouragement and being uplifted every now and then. And heck, you're right. Like, that's, even though I'm getting better at it, if I'm down in the dumps, it's like, yeah, it takes courage sometimes to ask for help. It's like, can you help me out with this? It's like, it's kind of like the whole, bear the whole world on your shoulders and don't tell nobody about no bad stuff at all. Be the superhero, invincible, invulnerable, all of that. But it's that that's something that everybody needs to work on. That even myself included. I'm getting better, but I can always get even better than what I am. Heck, everybody can always use some polish on their wonderful metaphorical shoes. Well, probably a brand new question for you, and this might be for the third time guess if we even have another person with this one. So I'd say around a good 50 years in the future, and for you this will be special. So 50 years in the future, you're 70 years old, you've accomplished all that you wanted to accomplish in life, and you now have a protege that's going to carry the torch for you. And you'll have to tell them 3 specific things to actually tell the world to actually make sure that he should always tell folks? What would those three things be?
Well, do they have to be personal or do they have to be universal?
Hey, it's up to you. It could be personal, it could be universal. It's all up to you, man.
Well, by the time I'm 70, that would be in 2069. That sounds like it's forever, but it seems like it's going to be forever in order to get there. But I would definitely, well, you said three, right?
Yep.
So, well, my first goal is to, by the time I'm 70, I definitely want to, I want to leave a legacy for my children, and I want to see my children grow and succeed, and I want their, I want my children, my son and my son, or my daughter, or both, or whatever children I have. I just want my children to carry on my legacy. I want to create a legacy for my children to pass on, and I also want to, I want them to just be proud of their dad for all of what he's accomplished and whatever he chooses to do and whatever he chooses to venture into. And I just want to make sure that this is all one. So this is all one goal, is to leave a legacy for my children, because I've shared this on other platforms. I didn't grow up in a two-parent household, and for a long time, forgiveness was my biggest obstacle that I had to face when it came to not just the father figures, but just the male role models that I felt like didn't respect me or honor me as a young man in my life. And after I was able to forgive and move forward, I was able to let go of all of the resentment and all of the bitterness and all of the anger. And I've just with my mom, she's taught me how to be a better young man. And I just know what I want. I know what I want as far as, being the best dad and just being the best husband to my wife. I just want to leave a legacy for my children. That's one. Number two, I want this world to remember me as somebody who's great, not because of what he looks like or because of what he has, but because of my talents and me working from the inside out in order to better the lives of others, whether it be a radio show, whether it be a coaching business, whether it be environmental science, whether it be in ministry. I just want to make sure that everybody is touched, regardless of their race, their nationality, their orientation, their gender, or whatever the case may be. Everybody's touched by my work. Everybody's touched by my ministry and just in everything that I do. That's number two. Number three, by the time I'm 70, I really want to take care of my mom. I really want to give back to my mom because she sacrifices a lot, and she's my biggest support system. So I want to. She's not interested in getting a new house, and I talked to her about this. I might buy her a sports car. When I make my first $1 million, I might buy her a sports car, and just taking care of her along with my other family members, and just giving back, just selling back my seed, not just with my family, but with my friends and people within this community and world. So those are three. I know that was a lot, but those are my three.
Hey, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. Yes, indeed. Great stuff right there. Always keeping the family on the top. That's what I'm talking about. Making sure they are the icing on that cake right there. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, alrighty. So for those who want to keep in contact with you, what's the best way for folks to reach out to you?
Well, I'm very active everywhere. So I would definitely say that if you want to connect with me directly, I would say that you can shoot me an email at brownNelsone@gmail.com. I respond to emails quickly. I check my email like probably 50 times a day, and I usually respond, at my quickest convenience and earliest convenience. I would also say that you can reach out to me on all of the social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn at Nelson E. Brown or Nelson Brown. I go by both of those names. And I also would say that I'm active on Amazon. So I released my first book on Amazon. I'm self-published. So all of my books that I write on my own, I'm going to be using I did use CreateSpace, but I converted it to Kindle Direct Publishing. So I will be using Amazon as the self-publishing platform for all of my books that I decide to write on my own, unless I decide to collaborate with other authors to write something big or write something bigger or better. I would also say that this is just a question I'm posing to all of the listeners. I'm looking for a young black male that is a difference maker in the community, because I'm interested in starting a radio show with Awesome God Radio. I did an interview with them a few weeks ago, and it was great. And I would love to just have just a co-host or two, maybe one or two young black men who are difference makers in their communities, because I feel like this world needs to hear some inspiration from young black men. They need to have a voice for young black men, because we are so disrespected in all forms of media. We are chastised to the maximum and to the fullest in all forms of media. And I just feel like that creating a radio show would open more doors, because people who don't like to read books like to listen to inspirational stuff. So, and a lot of inspirational material from a lot of inspirational people. So that I definitely think that opens up more doors and gives a voice to more young black men, and just more role models to look up to, more guidance, more direction, and things of that nature.
My man's always with a plan. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. Well, there you have it, folks. Go on out there. Check out the book if you haven't yet. Subscribe to his Amazon author page for all the updates and all the stuff he's doing. Heck, even shoot him an email. My man responds rapid pace, my friends, rapid pace. And he'll definitely reach out back to you. So, any parting words for the folks still listening, my friend?
Well, I would definitely say that, like I said, I'm only 20 years old. I just turned 20 in May, so this is only the beginning of my journey. And I would definitely say that, you can achieve anything and everything that you want. It doesn't matter how old or how young you are. You just have to stay focused on the vision, and you have to stay focused on what it is that you want, and what the goals are, and what the intentions are. And you have to limit your social circle. You can't let everybody into your social circle, especially when you're doing amazing things. Things that are going to change the lives of others, things that are going to change the way that people think. Those types of dreams are always going to have naysayers and haters. So you have to be mindful of who you have in your social circle, and you have to be, like I said earlier on in the interview, you have to be open to the fact that everyone's not going to embrace your visions or understand what your dreams are, and you can't be afraid to dream, because you owe it to yourself and to God to be the best person that you can be and to serve your purpose, and you don't need anybody else's permission to do that. And you don't owe anybody anything. You can, as long as you are not hurting anybody or harming anybody, you can go out and you can make a difference. You can achieve whatever you want to achieve. You can do whatever you want to do. So you don't need anybody else's permission to do great things. Like I said, as long as you're not hurting anybody, or as long as you're not, bothering anybody, it doesn't matter. And I just definitely feel like, all of the listeners that support me in my work, just stay tuned, because I have a lot more in store. And, I'm going to be around for a long time. So there's much more in store. I always have something up my sleeve.
Thanks a bunch for your listening ears on the Going North podcast. I hope you really, really enjoyed that episode. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to share it with your friends and family, especially those who love podcasts and love listening to some inspiration and motivation.